Okay. Sorry. Sort of. How you define yourself, the reason that comes up is because hopefully my idea is that you begin to look at yourself through the prism of how you live and how you want to live. And most specifically, I hope that you look at yourself through the prism of asking God to look at yourself and help you look at yourself. But once you notice what can be done with the principle of the virtue of integrity, then hopefully the next thing is to look at, then, who am I? So the question is, who are you? Or another way to phrase it is, what is the most important thing about you? If you had to list that in a sincere context, right? Because context matters, right? If you ask me as a priest, who am I might answer, like if you were like, oh, Father, I need a priest for a conference. Who are you? I might answer a different way, obviously, because I'd give you experiences of conferences that I've given or something like that, as opposed to if you just ask, but who are you? Or what is the most important thing about you? Just to yourself, think about it. The answer matters. Now, the next question is, what does your living say in terms of that answer? Who are you? Because you might say, I'm a son. And then you go, but I never speak to my parents. Well, you can't be a son without a parent. By definition, you can't be a parent without a son. God the Father, that title means nothing if he doesn't have children. Right? So you have to have, it's a relational term. By definition, there is, right? I am not a father in the physical sense. Why? Because I don't have a son. Do you see? It's a relational term. You have to have one with the other. And so then, is it reflected in how you live? What does your schedule say you are? Now, generally for a silent retreat, generally for any retreat, I tell people, keep away from your phone, the machine. By the way, if you don't know what to do for a retreat with your phone, if you have your own room and it's like you have kind of some reasonable sense of privacy or at least custody, even if it's not your own room, you're splitting it, but you can put it in your bag. Take your phone, leave it off, and leave it, or not leave it off, and leave it in your bag, not on your person. And the reason it's on silent and not off is because that way you get all the missed calls or texts, because you're adults, you might have needs to be in touch with people. And the reason you leave it in your bag and not in your person is so it avoids the phantom vibration. You know that? I'm sure I have felt something and now you're distracted out of the moment. So that's why you don't want it on your physical body so that you don't feel like, and in your bag that you're carrying is no good because you're like, did I hear it? I heard it and you didn't. So you just leave it silent. And then if you have a lot of free time in the retreat, you can check it all the time. You could stare at the thing for the hours of the day that you're free. But it leaves you accessible to the world and you know whoever's texted or messaged you, but you also know that you're also pulling away from it. But if you want to use your phone for this one, maybe after this conference or some point, look through your phone, look through your schedule. What does your schedule say you are? Who are you is one thing. Now, who do you say you are? Now, how about if I look at your schedule? What will it say about you? What do your conversations say about you? If we went through your texts, who are you? I'm a husband. Okay, so your spouse is the person you most message? Well, I mean, it's a relational term. Spouse is a relational term. You can't have a non-person. Married to myself. Didn't Hermione say that? I'm dating myself or something like that. She's I remember thinking, oh, yeah. You could just say that. Girl, you could say that. Well, you could say, I'm single. What's wrong? I don't understand how that's a bad word. Like, stop it, girl. Like, stop it. It's much sadder when you say this. She's a sweet person, I'm sure. I don't know her personally, but I'm just saying, like, come on, girl, stop it. You stop it. You ain't got nobody. It's all right. You can just say that. There's nothing wrong with that phrase. I'm dating myself. You can get to know yourself. I do actually recommend that sometimes to people. Get to know yourself for a year. And I even use the phrase, date yourself, but I don't mean it the way I think she means it. Because I'm not trying to cover anything. I'm being very bold about it. You are single, and good, get to know yourself. Some of us only know us in relation to a romantic relationship. Get to know who you are before you drop your personality on somebody. Let's see if it's worth dropping. They have to carry it. I don't like myself. Then why? Nobody else likes you either. Then well, I mean, it's just logical. Like, what are you doing? Like you said, I like myself. I don't like myself, and now I'm burdening. You see how there's There's a difference. And you want to learn to like yourself. We live in a culture of self-invention. Probably one of the most self-inventive cultures that has ever existed. We've had it. It goes up and down in different cultures. But think about it. Like no time in history can you be almost whatever you want to be. I mean, within most abilities. You know, we rightfully should pride ourselves on that. That's not a bad thing. You don't have to do what your parents did. If you were a beer brewer in 1416 in England, then you married another beer brewer or the son of a beer brewer, right? And women, by the way, mostly were the beer brewers. Men started taking over around that time. It was actually a woman that made beer earlier. She married another beer brewer, and they had a kid. Do you know what their kid did? Beer brewing. Beer brewing. Yeah, beer brewing. And that's what you did. And it was part of the guild, and it was a worthy thing, and it was a great thing. You were proud of that. Only in our culture, we've reached that point where you really do whatever you want to do. And that's amazing. That's great. Science and technology and education have opened those doors for us. Having said that, we are beginning to go too far. Self-creation or self-invention is a good thing to an extent. Like all heresies, it usually starts with something good and then goes too far. You are, for example, a gender at birth and a sex at birth. No, I'm not. Stop. Why is it that when we find the dead and we identify their bones, we never find any other gender? Because science predicates it. Father, that's mean. It's not. It might be tough for somebody to accept, and you should be gentle about how you say it, but it is truth. And you cannot help someone if you begin with a lie. Well, they struggle with it. Okay, great. So let's start with the struggle, not a false answer. That's not helping them. And by the way, the depression, anxiety, and suicide rates back me up. They're not happier. So you're not helping. Don't do that. Don't feed into that. If I said I hate myself and you were like, I get why you hate yourself, Father, you're not helping me. You're not. But if I say I don't like myself enough that I'm in the wrong body, and we go, yep, you are. What are you doing? You're supporting that they don't like themselves. That's not good. Well, but they don't like when I say that differently. I understand it. I'm not saying you got to walk around pointing it out all the time. Don't be a jerk about it. But that's not helpful. And again, I'm not speaking from a point of faith. Just the science backs you up. The psychology backs you up. The suicide rate backs you up. You're endangering their life. I can't be responsible for that. I'm a bad man, but I can't help you push you into something that would pull you possibly, very possibly, into suicide. That's an awful, terrible thing. Self-invention is important. We can go too far. We cannot go against our nature. We just are what we are. And I'm not picking a fight with gender ideology, although I all fight to gender ideology. But I'm not just picking a fight with only that. There are other things that we're trying to define. Or we define ourselves solely by a race. There are not people of color in the Oscars this year. Well, that's race. Color. They're not in there are no people of color, I think, running for president now in any of the major parties. Maybe there's one, I think. There's one guy left. So that's racist. So how many presidents do we need of color before we're not racist? 1, we had it. 2, 3, 8, 45, because we had 45 that were white and 45 that weren't. Is white one category? Because you know what? It's insulting like crazy. See, there's my Bronx almost came out, but I was like, nope. It's insulting like crazy if you just say, I joke around with friends because we're dark humor. And they're like, yeah, you're Puerto Ricans. And I was like, he's Mexican, dude. I'm Puerto Rican. He's Mexican, dude. Yeah, the Puerto Ricans from the South. Yeah, Puerto Ricans. And I was like, now, we're joking that way. Fine with me. I don't care. I think it's hilarious. But Because they also say, you're one of the Mexicans, you're one of the other Mexicans, the ones, the da Mexicans. And I was like, yes. It's a joke, relax, take a joke as a joke. So the guy's saying this, but why? I would say, no, there's different cultures. Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic are right next to each other, separated by 30 miles. They're different cultures. And if you ask them, they'll tell you they're different cultures. But all white people are the same? Scandinavians, which is a few countries. Slavs, which is a few countries. Well, that's not... You see, we can go too far. And you are not your race. It is part of who you are, but you are not your race. And everyone, you can't go against nature and say, well, I'm a race. And stop. It always comes out badly. When you try to go against nature, it always goes badly. The simplest example is planting a tree upside down, right? Not going to work. We're much more complicated, so there's much more complicated examples. It's a much more complex thing. Most things, for the record, almost everything. If you ever meet someone who talks about a big problem like the economy, or racism, or religion, or ideology, and they go, it really comes down to one thing, just turn the volume off in your ear so it doesn't, the dumbness doesn't infect you. Just turn your... There is nothing that simple. No, race is a complicated thing. Racism is a complicated thing. The economy is a complicated thing. Trade is a complicated thing. War is a complicated thing. Diplomacy is a complicated thing. The Middle East is a complicated... stop. It comes down to what... Stop and just turn the volume down. Because I'm still convinced that dumbness is infective. Because I think so, infectious. Because we have people who think the earth is flat, right? And we have lots of them. So that means I think you can be infected. You don't want it in you because it'll make your kids dumb. Don't do it for your kids. So nothing comes down to one. It's complicated. We're complicated creatures. There's a lot. And so you can't, what? Stop. Very few things are one thing. Some things are, but very few. Especially not big things. Especially when there's millions of people involved or billions of people involved. The climate comes down to, turn the volume down. Just, okay, cool. Actually, it comes down to like 50 million things. And you're going against nature. Nature is complicated. For each of you to be born, there had to be a ridiculous amount of very precise moments in your development for you to be born. Not for you to even get to this point in your age, in your life, just for you to be born. Incredibly complex. Why am I making this point? Because we have to learn to define ourselves and to be respectful when you define yourself of nature. Of your nature, not just nature like nature. I mean of your nature, of who you are as a person, of what you are as a person. And the other problem with defining yourself is this. If you are complete in you can define yourself. Was it Justice Breyer or Kennedy that wrote one of the decisions and he's like, well, people have a right to define their own life and their own happiness. I remember thinking, the Supreme Court, the stupid finally infected the Supreme Court. Why is that stupid? Father, what's wrong with that? They have their right to define their own life and happiness. It's illogical. Again, reason. Notice, I'm not quoting the Bible. Have I quoted the Bible? 0 times right now. Reason tells you to define something, you have to be above it. Sit with that idea for a second. You can't define something above you. It defines you. You with me so far? I define creation. I name a dog. A dog doesn't name me, right? Things above define that below. And we keep going, and that's the reality of nature. How can you define yourself? Are you above yourself? It's a paradox. It's impossible. Okay, wait. Let me explain myself a little more clearly. Just by your own experience in life, do your definitions or opinion of anything never change? That's ridiculous. You have almost no opinions that you had maybe a day ago, certainly 10 years ago. Don't believe me, go look at your haircuts from 10 years ago. Look at your pictures of your haircuts from 10 years ago, and you're like, and you're like, yeah, is right. You have changed. We change. So if you define yourself, if you were the extreme and the ultimate in definition of yourself, then you have nothing to define you that is stable. Because we change, and we should. That's the thing. We're meant to. First, does everybody understand the point I'm saying about your own experience in that we change in your opinion of yourself? So if you are the ultimate in defining yourself, understand that then you're basing yourself and your self-definition, therefore your integrity, on something that is shifting ground. Well, how can you be firmly adhesive to something that keeps you pure and whole and entire. That's why I banged on that drum so much last night about integrity. If the definition of what that is changes. What? You have to know what it is to be able to measure whether it's pure, whole, and entire. And you have to have a clear definition. You've all been in an argument with somebody that starts changing the goalposts. And you get mad? No, because it's about this. Well, I mean, but like this way too. You're like, that's not the same thing what you said, blah, right? You do it with yourself, it's equally ridiculous. You have a fight with somebody that you love, and you're arguing, and then they change what they're arguing about. Ooh, you go crazy. I didn't mean it like that. I meant, you never take me out. I took you out yesterday. Yeah, but that's different. What do you mean? You said never take out, right? You never called me. I called you. Literally, we were on the phone yesterday. Yeah, but I meant for other. No, you can't change that. But if you define yourself, then you're going to change your definition just because we change. And there are days you like yourself very much, and there are days you hate yourself. By the way, that's fair. That's normal. But if you define yourself, then that's what you're basing your worth on. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Do you see why self-definition has a limit? And it's a hard limit. It's a hard limit. You will break if you hit against that limit. It will not break. You simply cannot define yourself absolutely. You do not have that power because you're limited by yourself. You can define a relationship. I'm with this person, now I'm not. See, you can define it. You can change the definition. Now, they have free will, so they can define as well. They have a response. But you cannot define yourself perfectly. It's just illogical. But also, even if it wasn't just pure reason, and that's where I'm coming from, your own experience tells you it doesn't work. Do you remember when you were 14 or 13 or 16 and super awkward physically? Because all parts of you were sticking out all weird and just, and your voice is going all over the place and people are starting to look at you in funny ways, right? And smell starts coming out of your body for the first time in a way that's meaningful. And you're like, what's going on? Did you think you were the best? You thought you were a Ferrari right there? You thought you were a Tesla, one of the new ones? You're like, yeah, hey mom, I'm the high. You didn't, okay? Because you looked and you were like, what is happening? And what did everybody tell you? Can't do nothing about it, kid. Because you can't, you just gotta wait till it's over. I look at kids that are, Father, it's getting weird. I go, yep. But you're supposed to help me. Can't. Literally, there's nothing we can do. If I could, I would, honestly. If we could just buy you hormones, testosterone, inject you to jump it, I would, kid. That'll make it worse. Just be cool and hold it out, right? You grew that little dirt stash the first time, he was like, what's up? Until you saw somebody with real facial hair, and you're like, oh. And it hurt. When it hurts, okay? Ladies, you have men looking at you for the first time that made you uncomfortable. Maybe even really uncomfortable. Or maybe you didn't have men looking at you and you felt uncomfortable. Depends on when you bloomed and how you bloomed. You like yourself the whole time, I can define myself. Stop it. You have been a mess. Maybe you are a mess right now. I don't know. You've been a mess in different ways throughout your life, so you cannot define yourself perfectly. Right? If we were going to measure something, you have to have something objective. If I was going to say to someone here in the front row, hey, let's measure from here to the door, we would have to use an agreed upon measurement. If I said, how big is that? How far is that? I'd say 32. You were 32 what? Feet? No, hand length. 1, 2, 3. And you have a different hand. You're going to go 1, 2. That's not 32. It's 38. We have to have an objective measurement. We just need it. Now, obviously, it's an imperfect creature. There's going to be things that are right and wrong. So what? But it's something that we agree upon. Language. We can only speak because we believe in objective reality. Please, if you're a complete relativist, stop it. It's a ridiculous position. I'm a fan of discussing a position with people. I love the intellectual life. That one is a ridiculous, childish one. Fuck. You tell me you don't believe in God, we can talk about that. I think we can reasonably discuss it. You believe in God, you're not sure if Christ was God. We can reasonably discuss that. But you tell me there's no objective truth, I can't even stop from wanting to walk away from you. It tires me. You're like a child crying to me. Not crying because they're in pain. You know what I mean? Crying when they're in pain. Oh, crying because they just don't want something. You're like, oh, that kid. Why? Because to say there is no such thing as objective reality is an objectively real statement. Bruh. There's no such thing as truth. You just said a truth. No, there is none. Well, then there's no such thing as truth. So if there's no such thing as truth, then your statement is not true. So what? It's illogical, and you didn't take the time to just look at the most basic principle of this. Language says that. The fact that you understand what I am saying is because we have an objective, decided language. That's why slang is so fun, and internet memes are even more fun. Because I can show a picture of something, and everybody knows. If I send some of you, I mean, if you're into memes, if I send a picture of you with Frodo kind of going, you go, without any text, you'll go, all right, keep your secrets. You know exactly, if you know that meme, you'll know what I'm talking about, okay? Because we have a shared culture. That's what makes them so fun. It's like an inside joke with the world, which is awesome. Okay, but you have to have something objective. I shoot up a meme that you've never seen before, and people sometimes do this as a joke. This is a meme from the future, you don't get it yet, maybe. Because if I just shoot something up, it doesn't work. It has to be something we share. See, we work on, everything about us works like that. Numbers, we have to agree on what numbers are and what they mean. Right? If you count with base 12, I think the Aztecs, was it, that counted with base 12? I'm not sure. I kind of vaguely remember that from school. They didn't use the base 10 like we do, 1 to 10. They use base 12. If you count that way, well, then your numbers are going to be wildly different than my numbers. Wildly different. 1 to 10 are the same. Every other number is different. Or counting base 2, like computers, right? On or off, switch. That's wildly different than counting any other way. If you remember learning that in school, when you count in base 1, base 2, you're like, what is it? What? I don't understand. You have to have a shared thing. Well, you need something objective to measure something. So how do you measure or define yourself? You have to look outside of the thing itself. It has to be something outside us. And it has to be objective. It has to be immovable. It has to be pure. Practical. It has to hold up to practical life. If it's not any of those things, all of those things, then it's useless to you. It's a made-up system. It doesn't mean anything. But what's something in your life now, after a night and a half, I bring in religion? Because I wanted to build a foundation with you that was based purely on reason. So that now when I bring in religion, you're like, he's just talking about... What's something that is unchanging, objective, immovable, pure, practical? How about the creeds that you've promised? What creeds? I didn't promise no creed. Oh, you did? No, I didn't. Were you baptized? Wait a minute. Oh, you were then. Well, I was a little kid. Someone swore on your behalf. That's what a sponsor is. They literally mean sponsore is to be tied. They tied themselves to you. Are you a godparent? Then you swore it a few times. Do you go to Mass on Sundays? We say, I believe in God, the Father, Almighty, Creator. Oh, that? Yeah. Oh. You've sworn creeds. You've made oaths. And there are traditions in the church. And they've been handed on through the ages. Look to them. Why? Well, I can tell you they must be some sort of practical because we keep handing it on. Listen, things that are time-tied, time-bound, and for control become useless very quickly. That's one of the arguments that religion was designed to control people. We're doing a great job. Yep, yeah, all the time. Yeah, especially the person who said religion was designed to control people. Wait, what? I always laugh. I go, do you know how many intellectual arguments all you have to do is take one step back and you win? It's shocking. It's amazing. One of the best lessons I learned, Philosophy 101. You just take a step. Do you fit in your own philosophy? Go back outside. You'll try again. Religion is made to control people. By you saying that means... Yeah. Wait. Okay, you ever seen those posters, loose lips sink ships? 1940s, during the Second World War, America had a whole like advertising, to get people, the soldiers especially, loose lips sink ships, because soldiers would go to ports and sailors would go to ports, and sailors do what sailors have done since the time of the ancient Greeks. They find some girl and go, hey, what's going on? How you doing? And that's what they do. What they always forget is that some of those girls are not just going, hi, because they like them. They're doing it because they're gathering information for the enemy. You can't stop sailors from looking for women. That's not going to happen. What you can do is tell them loose lips sink ships. It's a nice little short thing, and it's kind of hard to say, so you kind of get them to say, why? So, where are you from? Don't worry about it, baby. Why? Because you're not giving away information. Where are you going? And you want to sound cool, so you tell her, don't. Do you see what I'm trying to say? It was an ad campaign. And so you'd see like big scary eyes going, like Uncle Sam with his finger on his tongue. Or you'd see a woman and she's stirring a drink in like a martini glass, but the martini glass became a snake. As it like at the end of the glass it became a snake. And I was like, be careful, fellas, loose things sink ships. Amusing, if not ridiculous at this point. We just don't need them. Control and propaganda only work within their time. Very quickly after them, we look at them and go, okay. Do you guys remember McGruff, the crime dog? Mm-hmm. Have you seen him recently? It doesn't work anymore. Do you see? Oh no, McGruff is gone? Well, I remember thinking about it a couple of years ago. I was like, hey, what? I was not offered drugs, by the way, nearly as much as I thought I would be when I was in school. Like I'm not saying I wanted any, but it was not as common. They used to bring in a suitcase with a bunch of stuff. I have no idea if those were real or fake, but like 20 different kinds of drugs, and I was like, ready, and that's what this is, and that. No, sir, I'm cool. Like, I was ready. It's cool not to do drugs. Like, Barbara Bush had told us that reading is important, dare, right, to read, and say no to drugs, and we laugh, because propaganda only works. I'm not saying it was bad propaganda, it's good propaganda. It was to stop people from using drugs. Not all propaganda is bad, first of all, but it only works in its time. Once we pass it, it becomes amusing very quickly. We haven't seen him in years, poor McGruff. Where is he? I gotta find that guy. Like, I gotta look him up. McGruff, kids. I think he was probably a famous actor, the voice of him. It's not about control. So if something is handed on for hundreds of years or thousands of years, you should look at it twice. Because human beings are very quick to judge that. Well, listen, we're a sarcastic, mean bunch. And I don't mean our generation or your generation or anybody else's generation. I mean human beings. We mock stuff really quick. We will make fun of a president within minutes of him getting elected. All of them. All of them. The minute they get elected, we're like, so listen, this guy, like we're just human beings. You think, well, that's because it's a democracy. You think they don't mock. Have you ever seen Winnie the Pooh memes by President Xi Jinping in China? No? Okay. Oh, you got to get on the crazy parts of the web. Okay, so y'all are on the tame parts of the internet. If you don't know about Winnie the Pooh and the President of China, come on, stop it. Get online. Okay, so the reason is because we mock things anyway. Now, they do it more carefully because they'll get in trouble. They'll get killed or whatever. But it's something we do the minute we can. And so you have to understand that if it's something is handed on for decades, centuries, thousands of years, it's probably lasted for a reason and not just thrown out with the trash. I would propose to you look for them. People are searching for meaning all the time. Human beings are constantly thirsting for meaning. C.S. Lewis had a good line in one of his books. He says, there are two races. Racism is terrible, but there are such a thing as there's only two races. Good men and bad men. I remember thinking, like, that's a pretty fair answer. The racism is ridiculous, that's stupid. But there are two races. And all men belong to one of two. Good or bad. Who am I? Before anything else, I am a child of God. No, I'm not, Father. Did you make yourself? My parents made me. Do you think they had any say in what you would look like? Do you think they had any say in that you were going to be a successful birth? Do you think every parent, every couple chooses when they have a child? And how long that child will grow and how... You must not know married people. I mean, really know them. When you really talk to them. Some couples struggle to have a child. Some couples have so many. Some couples, have lots of struggles between one or the other. Your parents didn't make you in that sense, not the way you are. Genetically, the variations that could have been there between your mother and your father's genes, insane, the percentages. Billions, 1 in billions, for you to be genetically what you're saying. I am a child of God. You didn't make yourself. And now the other option is you can say, I am a result of random coincidence. And I would say to you back, is it immovable, pure, and practical? That one does not satisfy practical. Why? Because two things. One, it is a meaningless statement. That means your life is by definition meaningless. It's a random thing, and that means you have the exact same value as a roach. But you know that you don't believe that. Therefore, it's a lie. Duplicitous. No, but that's being duplicitous. If you really believe that children, if we went outside and we found the grave of a child, we found a child outside dead under the leaves, you're going to tell me like, well, I mean, nature, some things make it, some things don't. You'd be mortified. But some of us bought little Christmas trees, right? That was just a baby tree. Father, it's not the same thing. I know why I think it's not the same thing. But if you tell me you're a result of random chance, then you can't tell me why you think it's not the same thing. Do you get me right there? That was a tricky one, but it's not that hard. Yeah, I understand why I can say that's a tragedy for a child to be dead. I understand why I say a tree being dead that's young is not a tragedy. I'm sorry. It's like unfortunate, maybe. Look at is that if your life is meaningless, and it has, if your life is meaningless, creation is meaningless, is also that you've lost your mind, and also it doesn't help in terms of health. How are you psychologically helpful if your life is just a random accident? How could that have any value? Death is the ultimate question. Pope Benedict put that in his book on the Holy Eucharist, one of the greatest lines I've ever read. Death is the ultimate question, and if a religion doesn't answer it, it's just a distraction. Why? Because why are you working hard? You're going to die. Why are you eating? You're going to have to eat again. Just die. The greatest thing you can do for the environment certainly is to kill yourself. So, there's that. Greta Thunberg will like you. Just... You will. That's the best thing you can do, because it removes your carbon imprint and it adds to the soil. It's a win-win. Well, Father, that's not... It adds to the environment. You produce... Everything is better if you're just dead. Well, I don't want to. Why not? What is I? I don't want to. If you're a random chance, the I is no more meaningful than if a tree has a thought of I. I like the light. That is exact same value. But you don't know, that's not true. So don't be duplicitous with yourself. Just be honest with yourself. You're created by something. You're creator. And that means you have a purpose. You're like the prodigal son when it says he came to his senses. You begin to wake up. Yeah, but Father, if I do this, this is hard. Yes. But you're free. To live with integrity is hard. To start lining up your life with what your mind works and what reason tells you is hard. I'm not going to say it's not. That's people sell that in religion. I think that's evil of them. Evil. It's easy. You could just do. That's evil. It's not easy. But the thing is in the hardness is where you grow, where you gain growth. It is hard, but ease is a form of slavery. Living for ease is a form of slavery. Don't believe me? You have to pick the easiest route. Your route of everything is chosen for you. Do you know when you walk on a path and there's a path that's like, with black tar, it's like a path in the woods, like like the driveway. If you stay on it, then you are not free to walk wherever you want. It is harder to walk off the path. But in doing that, you now choose and you're perfectly free. The person who lives completely for ease, by definition, is not free, because they have to do whatever is easiest. Do you get what I'm trying to say? The person who lives for ease, by definition, you already know what they have to do. And they have to do it. It is only when you say, wait, I'm not going to always pick what's easy, is that you begin to be free. Also, it's not practical. The higher, what is it? If you look at suicide rates in the United States, the higher the income, the higher the percentage of suicide. It's almost like a disease of the wealthy. You could almost classify it as a rich people's illness. Not that there's not, obviously that's a generalization, but the numbers are behind that. Why? Because ease of life can be a great thing, but too much ease and we lose our purpose. We lose our purpose, we lose our want to live. We have to have a will so we can get there. This is why, and think about it. What is the highest incidence of drug use? What is the highest? It's of people who don't have something to do. You speak to people who got clean and sober, and you see that they go, first I had to make up my mind that I wanted to get clean and sober, admit this was stronger than me, but then what do they start saying? And then I realized I needed to live for something. And I had to make changes for something. And the people who don't is because they spend from thing, it's as old as time. The problem with thinking of God as a father is what? Many of us have a really ugly version of a father. So it's not helpful. You say God is your father and people look at you and go, that's not good. Maybe he wasn't even around. Right? The incidence of fatherlessness in our culture is like tripled in certain communities. Tripled. It's risen in everyone, but it's tripled in some communities. Minority communities by far the highest that lost their fathers. So what? So, since the 1960s specifically. So what? So, if I say God is our Father, if you took a vow or somebody took a vow on your behalf when you were baptized, I believe in God the Father, you already have a problem with that one. Because what is the word Father? It's not a very good word. I don't like that word. My father was not there, or if my father was terrible, my father abandoned me, or my father was there, but let me tell you, wasn't there. Wasn't very good about it. I don't know. Or he was great to me, he wasn't good to my mom. Or he was great to my mom, he hated us. Or he was just an absentee landlord. He was around, he paid bills, but he was nice, patch on the head once a week, and then that's it. So a lot of us, I think, struggle with our creeds because the very first word we use in Christianity relating to God, the second word in the Our Father, is a problem word. Fathers, the other thing about fathers is they do play an important role in us. Oh, by the way, that goes to disprove the nonsense about self-invention. Everybody is just the same. Stop it. You can tell quite a bit about you from how you were raised. A lot. So every way of raising someone is not exactly the same. It's not. And the numbers back it up over and over again. Now, does that mean somebody can't be an amazing person? Of course they can. But it does change what they have to carry. It does affect it. You can't cook with different ingredients and have the same meal. That's ridiculous. We say the same thing about raising a child. That's ridiculous. You wouldn't do that with anything else. How do you teach me how to hit a baseball, and then I do the completely unrelated to what you told me to do? Dude, you're going to be all right. Like, nope, I'm probably not going to hit the ball. So you can't say the same thing. And that's not counting all the variations of human nature, which is wildly insane, right? Because that's where poverty, I have no excuse for poverty. I have no sympathy for it. I grew up poor. I grew up in the South Bronx. Right around when the South Bronx was burning, and right after that, that's when I grew up. I grew up there. So don't tell me, well, poverty decides people. That's ridiculous. That's absurd. I am proof of it. Some of my friends did well in their life. Some have done poorly. It affects your life, certainly. But that's free will. It's so wild that even when you're in a bad situation, you can come out great. But also when you're in a good and a bad. So certainly 2 or 3 different ways of raising a child can't be all the same. Can't be. Everybody get the points I'm trying to make? And I know, I'm not saying you may agree. I'm saying, do you understand? Does it appeal to your reason? Not your like. Like. Emotions are awesome for emoting stuff, not for deciding stuff. That's the problem. Some of us make decisions with emotions. Then we go, hey, emotion, you didn't do your job. And the emotion goes, my man, I don't know. It's not me, papi. That's not me, papi. I live in the 5th floor. He live in the 1st floor. And then you get mad at your emotions. Your emotion goes, I'm here to emote. I'm here to feel stuff. Well, yeah, but it's not me, papi. I live in the 5th floor. And then you wonder why things went wrong. Well, you decided with your emotions. You should decide with your reason. Your emotions are great to add color and to help you discern between, after you use reason to separate choices and you just have 1 or 2 left that are equally reasonable, then your emotions come in and can help you decide. That's what we call looking for the spirit of peace, right? What brings you peace in your spiritual life? Well, first, I'm assuming you're getting rid of all the things that emotion get rid of. That reason gets rid of. Then we go, if there's not, reason leaves a few options, yeah, okay, what brings you peace? Now you go, hey, papi, come here. Okay, papi, and he helps you. But it only works if you do it in that order. So I'm appealing to your reason. Fathers tend to define us and to limit us. Right? You start, like they say in Spanish, echando cuerpo. You start growing your body. You start being a man. You start being a woman. I'm a man. I'm a woman. I can do what I want. Right? And your father just looks at you and goes, maybe I'm not a woman. I'm daddy's little girl. Because you realize, this is not going to work. I'm a man. I say what I want to your mom. And then your father goes, what'd you say? Nothing, sir. There's a limiting principle. But if you have a hard relationship with that limiting principle, or the limiting principle didn't limit himself, maybe your father was great to you, but he didn't limit himself. It's not a good template for you. You got to be aware of that. Am I saying you're doomed to follow? Of course not. That's ridiculous. I've been saying the opposite of that for the last 10 minutes. But I am saying you have to be aware of it. A lot of times we make choices based on things that we're not aware of. That's dangerous. That's when you end up in bad decisions. And you look and go, why do I keep repeating the bad same romantic realities? And then you go, because I learned that pattern oh, son of a gun. I wish somebody had told me. This is the somebody. This is me telling you. Everybody got that? Why do I have a problem with authority? I get irrationally angry when people tell me what to do. Did you have issues with the authority? Oh, I wish somebody told me. This is the somebody. This is me telling you. I don't want to ever commit to anything. I just have a hard time because I think we're just having a good time. Let's just keep having a good time. Did you see men fearlessly commit to something, risking whatever they could? No, I didn't. Oh, I wish somebody. This is the somebody. This is me telling you. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, these things have repercussions, and you're free of them. Of course you are. I've been banging on that drum about your free will and you choosing. But I am saying you have to be aware of it. Otherwise, it will affect you and you won't know it. That's not helpful. If you haven't seen a man commit to something, to give up his strength and the most strong years of his life and the best looking years of his life and the most free years of his life and say, I'm going to pour that into this woman and to this family. If you haven't seen that, you're going to struggle with the idea of doing that as a noble thing. If the only thing you've ever heard about men is, we don't need no man. I'm an independent woman, need no men. You got to say that as one word. I'm an independent woman, need no men. I love when women say that to me because then I deliberately don't open doors or give them rides. Well, you're an independent woman, don't need no man. Good luck. You give them the Mentos thumbs up. Do 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 do. Wah. I can hear it in my head. What? Oh, you're an independent woman, need no man. I'm a man, you don't need me. Forward, onward, Christian soldier. I believe in you. We need each other. Everybody needs. Men need women, women need men, including the celibate guy. We need each other. Okay? No, you don't need. But if all you heard about men is that men are toxic, that men can go too far, that you don't need men, that men are broken. Do you know most boys grow up without a male figure in their life at this point in this country? Forget what the number is. Something like 70% of boys have almost no male influence in their life. They grow up without a dad. There's a bunch of time. They go to school. Most teachers in elementary school are women. They have no men in their life. Toxic masculinity is not the problem. It's the opposite of the problem. We need masculinity to help them be men. No, stop. Just look at the numbers. Use your reason, not your emotion. If you look at your reason, how many boys grow up with not a single male influence in their life? Same for girls, by the way. How many girls grow up without a single male influence in their life? And they have a hard time relating to the male psyche. They have no emotions. They're always closed off. Stop. They're all like that. Father, you're not like that only because I deliberately have worked on myself as much as I can to pretend to be a human being. I have no emotions. I had them removed. In the first day in the seminary, they take them out. You don't need this. And I go, I don't. Ha-ha. And I move forward. But I learn how to pretend to be a human being. No, they're like that. They're all like that. They're sarcastic, all of them. They compartmentalize. They just do stuff and they just drop an emotion, all of them. They never talk about their all of them. Wait, what? But how many men have you had in your life? What? Is your husband or your spouse or your fiance or whatever the first one you had for a long time in your life? Yeah. Oh, bruh, you were going to have an awesome time. This is me getting popcorn, watching. It's like all over again. This is what it's like in the garden. They're just like, wait, ugh, you're terrible. You don't want to do anything ever. Awesome. Yeah, I don't. Can we stay home? That'd be great. And I'm watching going, yep, that's exactly what I was going to think. Or the guys, you go, I don't understand women, they never want to stay still, they always change their mind. Every 2 minutes, they're emotional and they insult me and then they just change and they're like, what, you're offended? And I'm like, yeah, I was offended. And I'm like, all of them. I keep eating my popcorn. All women? All of them. They change their mind? All of them. They never know what they want to eat, but they always know what they don't want to eat. All of them. Well, how do you know that? They said anything and then I pick and they said not that. All of them. They give opinions about stuff that I don't want to change. All of them. I think she wants to change me. All of them. But if you've never grown up with one of them, then you see how you're confused or lost. It matters what you grow up with. I'm sorry. If that's news to you, this is me, somebody, telling you. I wish somebody told me. This is it right now. The guy telling you. It matters. And it'll affect your code, your interior code, and that will affect your integrity. And if you've never looked at your interior code ever, then by far it's going to have affected it. But also, has it been corrupted? Because you have to try to keep 2 or 3 things in mind. And with every new person, you don't want to offend them, so you add their code to your code. Corruption. Father, and they won't like me. Good. That's called self-sorting. Has anybody Everybody come across that word before? Phrase? Self-sorting? Self-sorting is understanding that human beings do not end up through everything, through outside external forces, but through internal ones. Okay, what do I mean by that? Self-sorting. Because I am a priest, and I'm clear about my love for the church and my priesthood, people tend to self-sort around me, even before I have a say in the matter. If people hate religion and hate priests, they're just not going to hang around me. Not because I push them away, because they self-sorted away. If you're very clear about your faith, then people will self-sort. You will find yourself struggling less with people that you don't agree with about your faith, because you will naturally self-sort. Okay? Ladies, I'm sorry, but it's not all discrimination why girls are not in some fields. A lot of it is self-sorting. Women tend to be better at the social sciences because they're better at emotionally relating, because they're better at relating to an 8-day-old person that cannot communicate properly. And so they naturally self-sort into social fields more. Men tend to be better at relating to inanimate things. Men tend to, again, generalities, but accurate ones. They tend to sort into the science fields. Those tend to be paid more. That's unfair. No, that's the economy. Well, that's the reality. That's why they self-sort. Do you get what I'm trying to say? We often choose. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying discrimination doesn't exist. That's ridiculous. But you have to understand that self-sorting also very much exists. People choose naturally what they're interested in or not. That's why we don't have an equal number of everybody in anything. Because people have free will, is what I'm trying to say. It's a more psychological term for free will. There's not the same number of people of this race or this gender or this color or this sex in this field. Yeah, I know. That's discrimination. No, it's self-sorting. Nobody's complaining about how many garbage women there are. How many women garbage sewer workers are there? Only 3%. That's offensive. Really? I'd love to see that. Well, what are you trying to say about CEOs? Because women tend to have a better grasp of the importance of family faster than a man does. And there are much less women that are those 80-hour work week maniacs that have no family and no functional friends. Women by far tend not to be that, just naturally self-sort. And so if you're hiring CEOs, who do you want? The person who has a well-balanced life or the person who's a freak and will work for you even when he's not told to? Freak 10 times out of 10. It's just, if you look at it, you'll realize that because they realize they get to an age and they go, whoa, my career is awesome, but I want to have a family. Wait, I want to have kids. Hold on. And to do that, you have to give up time. And if you're a board and you're going to hire a CEO, who are you going to hire? The loser who hasn't kept a girlfriend for more than 6 months? Or the woman who's well-balanced and goes, I have to want to have kids once in a while. I want to have a family. Too bad for you. I'm not going to get old and then go, what did I do with my life because I wasted on a career? Who are you going to hire? You're going to hire the freak 10 times out of 10 because they'll work for you. Well, that's not nice. Nice. What are you doing? Get those emotions out of here. Again, I'm not saying that these things don't exist, these discriminations, but I am saying that self-sorting is a shockingly accurate thing for accounting for things. I've already given some of you this example. My parents were married and stayed married while all 4 of us were born. All 4 of us were created by the same 2 adults. All 4, me and my brothers and sisters, have the same genes. All 4 of us were raised in the same way. All 4 of us had the same education comparatively. All 4 of us had the same economic reality comparatively. Why did 4 of us pick 4 different fields? Free will. Do you get me? Otherwise you would say, well, there was poverty, so they should all pick the same field. Or it's the boys, and it's 2 boys, 2 girls. My family's weird because we really leveled it out perfectly so that we could divide it up. 2 boys, 2 girls, and we alternate, girl, boy, girl, boy. It's literally really convenient for a statistician, a person with statistics too, because I can't say the word that it is, for a person who likes statistics to look at. And we all grew up the same way, same education system, same parents, same everything, but we all pick differently. Why? Free will. Not in the same field either, wildly different fields. Some are married, some are not. Some have kids, some don't. If it was all predetermined, then we would all pick the same thing. Or at least similar. Not at all. Well, it's because boys and girls. Nope, the boys. 1 boy and 1 girl are not married. 1 boy and 1 girl are married. Or have kids. It's discrimination. Of what? We're not even the same color. Puerto Rican. You didn't know that? We come in all the stripes. All of them. My grandfather is coal dark, like my cassock. My mom is fair-skinned. So 3 came out dark, 1 came out light-skinned. So if it was discrimination, then we would all end up 3 in one and 1 in the other. Do you see? Free will, self-sorting. So if you're very clear about your creed, then you don't have to adjust it for the people around you, because you will self-sort away from each other. Well, Father, that hurts. Only because you didn't self-sort early enough. We dated for fun, and then we realized we don't have the same morals. That's a failure. Father, that's involved emotionally. Now you're trying to figure out if you share the same values. That's rough. So what are you trying to say? If you live your values very adamantly, then you will self-sort, so then you already took care of the big stuff? What if we're compatible sexually? Everyone's compatible sexually. It's sex. It's like pizza. Even when it's bad, it's good. Says the celibate person, just so we're clear. What are you doing? Like but you have to self-sort beforehand. Or you get involved emotionally, you live together, then you decide to get married, then you decide to figure out that you don't share the same values with this person. Wow, that hurts. That's where that living your integrity matters, because it will push people away. Yes, but those are the people you want away later. So you better get rid of them before you catch feelings, as they say. So we say, our Father who art in heaven. Well, a lot of our fathers gave us damage and wounds. So then we have our Father in heaven fix us there. Help me to learn how to be a man. Help me to learn how to relate to men. Jesus Christ, the Son, and the example. That's what I mentioned at Mass. All religions are the same, only in their starting question, yes. Religions are different in how they answer it. No, we should all be kind, different. Nope. Because only in ours do we have a guy who says, worship me. That's an insane statement. Only a demon or a maniac or God can say that phrase. No one else. If you're a sane, regular person, you don't say, worship me. Muhammad says, worship this way. Buddha says, learn this way. Christ says, love me more than you love yourself. What? What a wildly insane and arrogant statement, unless you're God. There's no either or on this one. There's that three decisions that, again, C.S. Lewis pointed out. Liar, Lord, or demon. I think it was demon, liar, Lord. I don't know, or lunatic. Lunatic, liar, or Lord. And liar of the worst sort, a demonic liar. Because only a demon tells you to worship himself. Lunatic, he's a crazy person. Well, did he say other things that are crazy? Love your neighbor as yourself. It's actually a pretty good rule. Don't steal. Don't commit adultery. It's a pretty good rule. Turn the other cheek. It's a pretty good rule. We can build a pretty good civilization on it. Yeah, crazy person. Didn't say anything else crazy? Okay, so then he's not a lunatic. Is he a liar in the worst sort of way? Maybe. Does he show lying in other ways? There's that integrity. See, you can apply it and you start seeing things. No? Okay. So that leaves Lord? Ish. But what do we call him? Lord, in the creed. To listen tomorrow to the creed when we say it. After the homily, you say the creed. It's, by the way, a beautiful fact that I hope all priests always remember. Your homily should lead people toward the creed, not away from it. Because the first thing you say after the homily is the creed. After the homily, listen to the creed. I believe in the Holy Spirit. I believe in God the Father, Lord, created, Lord. And then with Jesus Christ, his only Son, our Lord. And I believe in the Holy Spirit, Lord and giver of life. Lord, in other words, it's a vertical relationship. I mentioned to you last night in the last talk that we would talk about the vertical relationship with God. Some of us get it wrong because we don't realize it is a vertical relationship. Well, I don't know if I like that. What did I say about emotions? After reason has dealt with it, then use emotions. Who are you? By the way, Christ answers that in another way for himself. Whenever our Lord appears, do you know he always appears with his wounds? Always. He'll always appear with the wounds, the 5 wounds. That's part of his identity. With integrity, he shows you, this is who I am. The suffering is part of who I am. The suffering is part of who I am. Christ was not a victim, a helpless victim on Good Friday. Do you remember when they came to arrest him? Who are you looking for? Jesus of Nazareth. I am. And they fall to the ground. Bless you. Who are you looking for? Jesus of Nazareth. I am. And they fall to the ground. Who are you looking for? Jesus of Nazareth. Fine, take me. He allows them to take him. He gives up his spirit. So he understood the suffering was part of his mission, not despite his mission. So we're going to finish with this. Take some time and look at your daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly schedule. What does your schedule say about who you are? What you spend time with or don't? And granted, time is not a universal, right? A simple universal. Time is a complicated one. because I can spend time with people and it's much more valuable than spending time with others. Okay, that's inherent. So I spend 8 hours at work. So work is more important than my family? No. Because it's a different quality of time. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So each thing is different, but it is something to take into account. But time does matter, because an intense one night of just a dinner and a conversation with someone in friendship can increase a friendship much more than if I spend, and I don't see them all week, all month. But it could be real friendship. So time is, there's more to time. There's that, I'm not going to fall into the mistake. It all comes down to time. No, but it does work as a guiding principle. How about your conversations? If you don't know who you talk to, look at your phone listing without looking at your talks. Look at your phone listing. What are your phone calls? Nowadays, people are transitioning into not calling people. They text. Fine. Look at your texts. Who do you message with? And by the way, text, I know I sound old. Whatever you use for messaging, I don't care. Like WhatsApp or any of that stuff. Whatever. Look at your social media. What does that say about who you are? Don't judge it. Just notice it. We'll get to discrimination this afternoon. Discriminating about what's better or worse. Okay, but just look at it. Notice, what does my schedule say about who I am? What do my conversations or text messages or social media say about who I am? And what does my hourly schedule say about who I am? So integrity can work both ways. We can look at a creed and then work outward to make sure our life lines up with the creed. Or, if it's perfectly a person who lives with integrity, you can look at their actions and it should line up with their creed. Do you get what I'm trying to say? That's why those 5 new commandments that James Patterson proposed are so worth looking at. Because then you're like, they're crazy. And then what was great, by the way, I'm going to say this, is the first commandment I said, you were like, that's weird, ridiculous. And then I got to the last one, and you're like, that's me. And I was like, Like, it went from less agreement to more. You could see it. If you have the audio or something, you can listen to it, the audio, the reaction. Some of them reacted more, some of them less, because you're like, if nobody knew. Nobody knew at all. That work one was crazy. I went nuts with that one. I was like, I get it. I'm the same. So we're all sinners walking toward God together. You can figure out what to do based on who you are. Let me start that again. There's 2 options here. You can figure out what to do based on who you are. What should I do? Well, who am I? What am I? Then I'll figure out what I should do. Or, that's the right way to do it. Or incorrectly, most people, unfortunately, end up figuring out who they are based on what they do. I don't believe church is important. Did you stop going to church before or after you believe that? I don't know. I stopped going to church and then I thought about it, let it rest. So you decided what you believe based on what you do. Crack. The perfect integrated thing, crack, right down the side. Decide it. And then, I was kind of doing it. I don't know if I believe that. I don't know if I believe that being sexually chaste before marriage is an important thing. Are you sexually chaste before? All of a sudden, everybody grabs their pearls, clutches their, okay. So you brought it up, not me. 1. And 2, I'm not going to give you a hard time. You're doing it already or not. By the way, I already know because you answered with, you lose. So how convenient you decided that. No, I decided that way before I could get a couple, into a relationship. Okay, were you falling in the sins of pornography or masturbation? Whoa. Oh, so that's why you decided sexual morality is too hard to live? So you decided what you believe based on what you do, instead of deciding what you are and what you believe and then decide what to do. Do you get what I'm trying to say? There's an inversion there. And the inversion matters. Looking at your schedule can help you. You have to figure out which one you are. Now, the thing I'm going to give out, the reflection I'm going to give out is, it's a fun one. It is, I tried to explain it in the text, just so you get it. It's a challenge to the Privy Council by St. Edmund Campion. First, let me finish with a prayer. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Lord, give us the light to know what to do and the strength to get it done. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. It's a